We've seen updates we've seen about the neutral zone, which is again Saudi and Kuwait, which had been stopped for the last 4 years, if I'm not wrong, and now there are talks about production happening there, which is again equal to 500,000 barrels. So how exactly is this productive? Isn't this counterproductive to that argument then?
Yeah, it's certainly those announcements relating to the neutral zone did come at an odd time, basically very soon after the OPEC Plus decision to extend production cuts into the first quarter of 2020. So whether or not that production is intended to replace depleted production in other parts of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, that would allow it to come into the market and not be accretive in terms of its impact on market balances. But if simply they were to add another 500,000 barrels a day onto this market, this is not a market that could withstand that and keep prices for at least the Brent price in a sort of $60 to $70 kind of range. I mean, the reason we have OPEC oil prices where they are now, holding around, say, $64, $65 a barrel, is not because OPEC has been cutting 800,000 barrels a day, it's because they've been cutting significantly more than that. Countries like Saudi Arabia are cutting significantly more than they are required to do as part of the OPEC Plus agreements. So you can imagine if they're hitting their target at 100%, then the oil price would be considerably lower than where we are at right now. And let's not forget that they've also had the benefit of production being disrupted and interrupted in places like Venezuela and Iran, both of which are under U.S. sanctions. So their crude faces a much more difficult time going out to the market. And actually, when you look at it on a year-on-year basis, most of the decline in production from OPEC countries in 2019 has come from those two producers, not from Saudi Arabia or for the UAE, which have actually been producing at a higher level year on year than they were in the same place in 2018.
Obviously, with the new production in a neutral zone, I mean, this will reflect on the exports. Obviously, in the end of the day, it's the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. You know, the market gets a bit too hung up with the production levels, whereas the actual supplies to the market are at the export levels, right? And interestingly, I mean, in the latest round of cuts, we've seen exports being generally in line with the production cuts, so coming off a little bit. Not something we saw in earlier years, especially for countries like Iraq, let's just say. That said, yeah, I mean, the US nowadays is at par with the UAE, practically just below or around the 3 million barrel level. So export-wise, this grades has been a bit of a vacuum situation for medium and heavier crudes because of Venezuela and Iran. So there's appetite for this kind of crude, especially for sophisticated refineries that can utilize this crude to the maximum and maintain their margins at slightly higher levels.